Okay, so actually, just kidding, we have one more order of business before we head back over to the PowerPoint. And I tell myself every single time the cat comes over that I'm going to keep my cool and I'm not going to get distracted and start talking nonsense and forgetting what I'm doing, but then I do anyway. So sorry about that. So I mentioned before that when you're looking for the median, you can usually find it for ordinal level data, but you can't always. And so I'm going to also go through an example of finding the median for an ordinal level variable, as well as show what happens when sometimes you can't. So I'm going to come up with another example of a data set here. And here this data set is going to be the highest level of education that 9 police officers have attained. So here our variable is officer education. And we have one officer who has a high school degree, another officer with an associate's, another officer with a high school degree, one with a BA, and so on. So I'm going to write out this data. Somebody with a master's, another bachelor's, and another associate. So we have 9 observations total. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we'd say that we have an N of 9. All right, so we have a relatively small number of observations here. This means that we can just list them in order and then find our median that way. So I'll start out by listing them in order. So we have 3 officers with high school degrees. We have 2 officers with associates. We have 3 officers with their bachelors. And we have 1 officer with a master's. So this is the same data that we have up here, but listed in order. So if we want to find our median, we can count inwards and find that our middle value here is an associate's degree. If you want to check with your median position, you can also do that, where our median position is given by our n, or our total, plus 1 over 2. And here you get 10 over 2, and that comes out to 5. So this is also our 5th position. All right, so here we just did it two ways really quick. We listed out our values in order, and if you count inwards, you find that your middle value, so the one in the very middle, is an associate's degree. And you also find that that's your 5th position, which is your median position. So here we would say that our median is an associate's degree. So by this measure, we'd say that a typical level of education obtained by officers in our sample is an associate's degree. All right, but what were to happen if we had one more person in our sample who had a master's? All right, so I'm going to write these out again in order. Except now I've added one more person who has a master's. So now we have 10 officers. All right, so what happens to our median? Here we can count inwards, or we can use the median position formula. And they'll both give us the same answer. So if we count inwards, we find that our 2 middle values are an associate's and a bachelor's. If we find our median position, so our total number of observations, n plus 1 over 2, gives us 5.5. So here, 5.5 is in between 5 and 6. We now have a problem, right? Because if these were numbers, what we would do is we would take them and add them together and divide by 2. But what happens when you try to add an associate's plus a bachelor's and divide it by 2? Well, it doesn't make any sense. And so a reason that you sometimes can't find a median when you're working with ordinal data is that ordinal data, by definition, can't have any arithmetic done to it. So when you get to a point in the process where you need to do arithmetic, sometimes it breaks down. And so what you might say here is that your median is, not possible to find. Or if you really wanted to be descriptive, you could say that it falls in between your associates and bachelors. But when I give you guys questions like this, I will just be expecting you to tell me that it's not possible to find the median here. But either way, this is why our median sometimes doesn't work for ordinal level data. All right, so with that, for real this time, I'm going to head back to the PowerPoint and talk about our last measure of central tendency, which will be the mean.